Hey boys and girls, Tim with Little Crow Gunworks. Welcome back to the channel. Today is a very special day, for me at least, and for some of you I'm sure. We're finally getting around to this Fast Twist 270 Winchester Project. I'm going to spend some time playing with St. Jack O'Connor's baby. But we're putting a little bit of a different spin on it, literally, in that we're going to be using a fast twist barrel. You know, with a 6.8 Western coming out with a fast twist barrel. You know, a lot of people that love that cartridge say that it rendered the 270 Winchester to obsolescence. I don't agree with that. So what we wanted to do was show it some love and try shooting some different bullets. Put a modern fast twist barrel on an old cartridge and see what we can get out of it. What we can do with these new modern high BC bullets, and see what kind of velocity and performance we can get out of it, and then compare it to the tried and true bullets with the 270, and see what the difference is, see what you're really gaining. I have some company at the range here, so you're going to hear some shooting, but maybe we'll talk a little bit about the rifle and then talk to you about what we're going to do with it. We'll get you guys flipped around here. Okay, so this is the rifle we built for this project. It is a very practical, very lightweight, sporter type hunting rifle. Has a Macmillan stock. This color is supposed to be flat dark earth, but to me it's more of a sun-dried mustard or cat yak yellow or something. I haven't decided what to call it, but traditional sporter style stock, fiberglass stock. Has a Remington 700 standard long action. It's been trued by Dale. Trigger Tech special trigger with a curved shoe. We have a Vortex Razor HD LHT 3 to 15 by 42. Second focal plane. Has a direct adjust elevation turret and capped windage. And then we have a Excalibur number 4, I believe, medium sporter, 24-inch barrel, 1-in-7 twist with our go-to 6-groove spiral fluting. Then we have one of our Little Crow Gunworks precision muzzle brakes, ported version, that's been timed to match the barrel, and then Dale blended it to match the profile as well. So I think this might actually be the lightest rifle we've ever tested on the channel as well. This rifle without the bipod is only 8.2 pounds, ready to go. So lean and mean, traditional hinge floor plate magazine. What else? I think that's about it on the rifle. I think we got Vortex precision machine rings on there. So nice, lightweight, practical hunting package, except the only twist is it's got the fast twist barrel. So we're going to see what we can get out of the old girl. And a lot of different things we could have done with this. I think what we decided to do was, typically what I do is I'll pick a bullet and then test a bunch of different powders and in an effort to try to make it shoot as good as possible. This series we're going to do a little bit differently, in that we kind of want to show like something for everybody. So instead of testing multiple powders for all the bullets, what we're going to do is test a few different bullets kind of smattered across the possible candidates you could choose. But to start with, we want to get a baseline of performance. So what we're going to start with is a traditional Nosler 130 grain ballistic tip, like something you might shoot in a standard 1-in-10 twist 270. Why are we doing that? Well, a couple reasons. One, to show that you can. Just because you have a fast twist barrel doesn't mean you have to shoot long, heavy, high BC bullets. You can still shoot the old standbys. So we wanted to use that to get a baseline of performance. Go, okay, we ladder tested up. We were able to get this thing to shoot very well at X velocity. Then, based on that and the ballistic coefficient, we have a baseline of performance to compare to the other bullets that we're going to test at longer ranges. So we'll have the 130 grain Nosler ballistic tip, and we're also going to test the 150 grain Nosler AccuBond long range, which is a dynamite bullet, and I don't think you can really stabilize it in a traditional twist. That bullet's best suited for like an 8 twist barrel or tighter. And I think some people have been able to get them to shoot in slower twists than that, but it's not ideal. And then the third bullet we're going to test is the new Barnes 155 grain LRX. That bullet caught our attention when they came out with that. Very high BC bullet. Does require a very fast twist to stabilize it. I think 7.5. Our barrel's 7, so we shouldn't have any issue there. And then for people that either want a long range target load or like hunting with copper jacket, lead core, cup and core, hollow point boat tails, we're going to test the Berger 170 grain extreme outer limits to see what we can get out of that bullet. We do have adequate twist for it. We're going to be using different powders for each of these. Well, there's some commonalities across them, but there'll be a little bit of difference there. So I think with today we're out testing the 130 grain ballistic tip, and because it's exciting for me, this project especially, because I've never loaded for 270. We're in the 100-year anniversary of the cartridge, and I thought it was kind of cool because I've been hand loading for over 28 years and I've never hand loaded for 270, so this was exciting for me to see what I could do with it and try my processes and my theories on this stuff and see what I can get out of it. So with the 130 grain Nosler ballistic tip, today I'm out testing, doing my 15 shot ladder test with N555 and N160 to see which one it prefers. I have a feeling it's going to prefer N160, but that's why I shoot these tests, just to see which powder it's preferring so I know where to spend more of my time. And then on the Nosler 150 grain AccuBond long range and the Barnes 155 LRX, both of those are going to be using N160. I'm not going to test any other powders. And then the Berger 170 grain, we're going to use N560. Vitivory N560, so all Vitivory powders in this whole series. And that's partially because there really isn't any information out there on 270 and Vitivory powders, and historically I think most people that have a 270 just use Hodgdon 4831 or 4831 shortcut and call it a day. So I wanted to apply my process to this and see what I can get out of it for group size and velocity, performance, that sort of thing. So I'm really excited to finally kick this off. I know it's been a long time coming. There's a lot of you guys that have been waiting for this seemingly all year, but we're finally getting around to it. It's early September, and I should be able to get all the testing done, have a bow on it before it gets too nasty out to shoot. I forgot to mention for the ammo, we're using assorted federal brass that Dale's accumulated over the years. So some of it's been fired in different rifles, some of it's been sized, and some of it's been oversized and whatever, so there is a little bit of a variable with the brass. So I'm kind of trying to work through it here through the first firing to kind of iron it out and get it in a place where it can give us the best data possible. We're using CCI 250 Magnum primers, and then I already mentioned the powder and bullets. I think the goal for this is we're going to get a baseline of performance with the 130, like I said, and then see what we can get out of these other bullets, and then test them, well, compare them on paper at long range, but then also test them at long range and see how they shoot. I haven't decided if I want to test at 505 yards or 640. That's kind of getting into the usable limit for this cartridge, kind of no matter what you're hunting. So, because it is a hunting round, there really isn't much value in testing it past that, because you start running out of adequate velocity and energy to ethically take game past those distances. Where the 640 yards is going to allow me to air it out a little more, and we'll see a little bit more of a difference. Where at 505 yards, I think the performance is going to be similar enough that, with me driving the gun and me doing all the load development, you may not see a huge difference other than on paper, but when the rubber meets the road, you might not see that much of a difference. But I'm excited to find out. This is something that people have really been looking for good information on, and there really isn't any out there. I would mention the only other attention that I see it's getting is a fellow out in eastern Idaho. His channel is called Hunt Simple. Small channel, but he does some good stuff. He's working on a fast twist 270 as well. I think he's got a Browning X-bolt, also 24-inch barrel. I think that's a 7.5 twist, where this is a 7. So we have equal barrel length, slightly different twist. This is a custom rifle, his is a factory rifle. And I think he's testing some different bullets too. I think he's starting with the Nosler 170 grain ballistic tip, I think. 165 or 170. I think it's a 170. And he's working with N560 as well. So if this is interesting to you, I'd encourage you to check out his channel, because he's going to be doing a whole series on this as well. And I don't know what all he's going to test. I'm not sure if he's decided what all he's going to test, but he's excited about it too, and he's tinkering on it now and working with the one bullet and getting great results. So I'd encourage you to check that out. But I think I'm ready to get the testing going here. I'm going to shoot our 15-shot ladder test. I think I'm going to take a couple shots just to make sure I got a good 0 and that I'm not going to lose any shots, and then I'll switch over and start the test. We got some rain coming, so I'm going to try to get the Longshot Ranger Plus down there to capture the footage so I can know for sure where each of the bullets hit and try to dodge the raindrops here. So I'm going to take a few shots, then we'll get the camera set up and then continue the rest of the test. Yep. So now I think I'm due for another shot on N160, which is on the right, and then N555 on the left, then another one N555 on the left, and back to N160. So we're back and forth like that. So we'll keep shooting here and see if we can pick a winner after this test, see which powder shoots the smallest aggregate and seems like it wants to behave the best, and then we'll know what we should be using to do the ladder test moving forward. Wow, 29.47 on the velocity. That overlapped with one of the previous holes. So those of you that are seasoned veterans of the channel know why I do this test. For those of you that are new, because of this 270 Winchester series, welcome to the channel. The reason I do this test is a way to explore a couple different powders without getting overly committed. So I basically just load one shot at each charge weight, and for these powders I'm going in this size cartridge, I'm going in 0.3 grain increments. So I'm basically just trying to test the entire pressure band, usable pressure band of the cartridge and bullet combination, and see, you know, kind of no matter how much powder's in there, is it wanting to behave and kind of shoot in the same place? Because I found in my experience that if you can do this test, shoot 15 shots across the entire pressure range, and your for a hunting rifle like this, your aggregate group size is under 2 inches or getting close to 1, that's probably a powder you should explore further. And if it's bigger than 2, it's probably not something you want to waste any more time on. So that allows you to quickly eliminate contender powders just with a simple 15-shot test. And I found it's also a good way to slowly ladder up and kind of find where your pressure ceiling is through, you know, marks on the brass, that sort of thing. I did use GRT to kind of figure out what the ceiling is and see if we get up to those velocities. With both of these powders and a Nosler 130 grain ballistic tip, 24-inch barrel, I think at max pressure our max velocity is like 31.65, screaming pretty good. So if I hit that number, I'm stopping no matter what shot I'm on. But I think I'm a little bit low, so I don't know if I'm even going to get there in the 15th shot, but we'll see. All right, now I'm on to N555. .48, 29.47.7, just like the last shot of N160. Different powder, same velocity. 29.53. Getting some diagonal stringing there. Not very encouraging to start with. I get a kick out of this N555 every time I use it. It's like a It's smoky. For a smokeless powder, it's really smoky. It's like kind of like shooting a muzzleloader. So I always get a kick out of that. Alright, now we'll do 2 in a row of N160 on the second bullseye from the left. See what we get. $29.67. Grass looks good. So far, with 4 shots on the board, N160 is showing the most promise, but it's too early to say. We'll see how she does as we finish up here. Alright, 5th shot, N160. One in the same hole as that lower left shot. 2980 feet per second. Now, this is also the first time we've had the Longshot Ranger Plus out in the rain. So I'm curious to see how it performs. It's not pouring, but it is kind of sprinkling. And we weren't supposed to get rain today, but today was the day I had to shoot, so I'm kind of having to try to squeeze it in. A little bit less than ideal conditions, but I think we're going to be okay. Still get enough data to be dangerous and pick a powder to move forward with. Alright, left bullseye. We got 2 in a row with N555. See if she starts to shape up here. $29.57. Overlapping one of the previous holes. I'm not sure if it was the last one or not. Figure that out when I review the video footage. Down and to the right, $29.71. The more we shoot, the more it looks like N160 is going to be our powder. But we'll give it a fair shake and shoot the rest of the test. Rain's starting to come down a bit harder now. Doesn't seem to be affecting the Ranger Plus at all so far. Alright, I think we're on to 2 shots of N160. $29.80. I think that's the shot that's the furthest to the right. That looks good. I think the last shot was $29.80 as well. Testing in real world field conditions here, boys and girls. Not picking a perfect day. I don't get to make the weather. Glad the Ranger Plus is cooperating. And our target board's getting wet, but I think we're still going to be able to see what we need to see, and it's another reason to shoot cardboard instead of paper. It holds up a lot better to rain than paper does. Still going to get the same data even if the cardboard gets soaked. So our 1/2-inch orange dots might fall off. That's the only thing I'm really worried about. If it does, I guess I'll have an outline of where it was that isn't wet. I can go down and trace it with a Sharpie. Alright, another shot at N160 on the right dot. Where our last shot was the furthest one to the right. See where this one goes. Same spot, just below it. 3012. Big velocity jump. Those 2 shots are 1/4 inch apart, the last 2. Right. Next charge N555. Remember our last shot went down by the dot there at a completely new point of impact location. We'll see if it sticks with that, if it just migrated and now it's going to stay down there, or what it's going to do. Nope. Back up top. 3001. A lot of jumping around on N555 so far. Not a good sign, usually. Rain doesn't seem to be affecting the Ranger Plus at all. That's good. Nice to know that if it starts raining, I don't need to panic and run out and pick this thing up. You know, it says that they'll warranty it as long as you don't submerge it in water, which to me means it's, you know, you're not going to hurt it by having it out in the rain. It's just not meant to be submerged and completely infiltrated with water, but I don't think rain's going to bother it any. Which is good. If you got a field tool that you can't use when it rains, not very useful. Alright, next shot N555. Remember our last one, I think was the highest two shots overlapping. Our last shot went up there with that one, that previous shot, so we'll see where this goes. Did that go in the same hole? Can't tell. It looks like it might have. 3050. Woo! 3001 to 3050. Big jump, 50 feet a second. And I think it went in the same hole as the last shot. There's not enough of a difference there for me to tell. I'm pretty sure it did. But that is a big velocity jump between shots, so I'll be curious to see, you know, if I load in between there, how that would shoot when went in the same hole but 50 feet per second different. You know, makes you wonder if that load would be any good. Alright, now we're back to N160. Let it cool off a couple minutes here. Barrel staying nice and cool, so I'm probably waiting too long in between shots. Not that that's going to hurt anything, but I should say longer than I need to. Oh, that's crazy. I'm pretty sure that last shot went through the same hole as the previous one. It looks like it got a little bigger in the center, like it was two shots like this, and then it kind of split the two. Or just made that top hole a little bigger. I can't tell. I'll have to wait till I watch the video to find out. It's a good sign. It'd be worth coming back and at least testing between those two charge weights. That's another thing for those of you guys that are new to the channel. Another reason I do this test, this 10 to 15 shot test, is to find things like that. So I'm not only testing the entire usable pressure range with that powder and bullet combination, I'm also trying to see what aggregate size it shoots. The smaller the egg, I found the easier it is to find a good load that's consistent across time. But then also within these tests, you can see where 2 or 3 or 4 charge weights in a row will all hit in the same place. And I found that if you do a more extensive ladder test and you shoot, you know, 3 to 5 shots of each charge weight, when you get to that sweet spot, I call them, where multiple shots, multiple charge weights in a row hit the same place, when you get up to that charge weight, that's where it shoots the best. So this can be like a quick and dirty way to figure out not only what powder you should be using, but where it's going to want to shoot too. Because despite what you may hear on the internet, you don't get to pick where these things want to shoot. You know, everybody has these ideas of, I'm going to have this cartridge and this bullet and this barrel length and this whatever and this powder, and I'm going to run it up and I'm going to get whatever velocity, you know, for a maximum velocity. Well, that's cute, but that doesn't mean it's going to shoot there. It's going to shoot where it's going to shoot. You don't get to pick where it shoots. So the gun's going to tell you what it wants, and this can be a really easy way to find that and not spend a lot of time messing around. Alright, so now I think we owe 2 N160s. Shoot our next one here. Nope. Sidestep left a little bit with those other 2 shots. 2994. Velocity actually went down 18 feet per second. this is miscellaneous brass, so you know, it was fired in different guns and sizes at different times, different amounts, so there is a little bit of ironing out of the brass here, so we might see some weird anomalies like that. Not the end of the world, obviously. It's only a ½ inch away from the previous 2 shots, so not a big deal, but when you see those weird little anomalies and you're using a mix of, you know, brass, that can be something that pops up. Still not bad though. I think our whole aggregate for however many shots that is, 8, I think. Our aggregate's under 1.5 inches. So that's pretty good. It's about half the size of N555, so I think we already got our winner, but I'm going to finish out the test anyway just to get the information, and I'm here, so might as well shoot the stuff. As long as it's safe pressure, I might as well shoot it. Alright, another N160 on the right bullseye. Our last one was almost straight up from the orange dot and just left, kind of there by itself, touching the 2 shots below it. Went back with the previous 2. See that? Jump back over to the right, and right where it should be on velocity, 3047. So I think we might see something there. Those last kind of 4 charge weights that I shot for N160, there's probably a good load in there somewhere. We were on like 3010, 3020, somewhere in that neighborhood, which isn't screaming fast for a 130 grain in a 24-inch barrel, but if it shoots lights out, oh well. I'm guessing we're gonna see another spot up a little higher, but where it hits in the same place. I found that's pretty common. I usually see 2 spots where sequential shots will hit in a row. In a 15-shot ladder like this, you usually get 2 sequences where they'll hit in the same place, like a slow load and a fast load. So we'll see how it shakes out. This barrel is nice and cool. Between the little fan I have at the end of it and the chamber chiller, it's not really warming up at all. Alright, now we owe 2 for N555. I think our last one was, our last 2 went in that hole that's highest and to the right. There's 3 shots there, I believe. Let's see where this one goes relative to those. Just above them. Isn't bad. 3044. Last 2 shots were 3050 and 3044. Again, that might be another brass anomaly where we had 2957, 2971. We're going up in 3/10 increments, so 2957, 2971, 3001, and it jumped way up to 3050. Another charge weight higher came back down to 3044. So that 3050 piece of brass might have just been weird relative to the others. So I won't put too much stock in that, especially considering the last 3 shots are under a ½ inch. 3001, 3050, 3044. So that spot's probably worth exploring. But overall, N160 is a lot more stable so far. Alright, next charge weight of N555. Now I'm going to let the cat out of the bag a little bit on this series, but all 4 bullets we're going to be using Vidivori powder. This isn't sponsored by Vidivori. It's just I looked around at what's out there for 270, and it seems like anybody that's loading for a 270 or publishing data on it or talking about it or owns one or whatever, it seems like 90% of people use H4831 or H4831 SC. Some people use IMR 4831, some IMR 4350, some H4350, and basically nothing else. So this isn't I feel like this cartridge isn't really a group of people that experiment a whole lot, you know. And I know H4831 shoots great in general. On paper, it's too slow for this cartridge, not burning 100% according to Gordon's reloading tool, kind of no matter what you're shooting. Maybe with a 24 or 26 inch barrel and the Burger 170, but in general, not all the powder's burning, but it still groups really small, so people use it. So I'm kind of trying to go against the grain there, and use appropriate burn rate powders and from Vitavori. These two powders aren't burning 100% in the lower charge weights, but now that we're up toward the top, they are burning 100% according to GRT. So they are still usable, it's just they're on the slow side for a 130 grain with a 24 inch barrel. But the other bullets that we're loading and powders that we're using, I think the powders are going to be about perfect for what we're using. So this one I just want to experiment with a little, try to get a first firing on this brass. And because I've never loaded for a 270, I wasn't sure which of these would be better. I had a feeling N160 would shoot smaller because it's single base, and the single base powders on average usually shoot smaller, in my experience, than double base powders like N555, but I wanted to test it anyway. See, they have very similar fill ratios, very similar max velocities. They're technically a different burn rate, but the powders are very similar. Right now, I think the biggest difference is N160 shooting smaller and N555 smokes a hell of a lot more. But other than that, not a whole lot of difference velocity-wise. Alright, now we're back on the N160. Shoot two there. That one went off to the left. 3050. I don't think we're going to get up to our max. Maybe with N555. N160, I don't know that we're going to get there. According to GRT, the max velocity at 65,000 psi for both of these was 3165 in the 24 inch barrel. And I don't know that we're going to get there. Maybe. I think we're going to be a little short, maybe on both powders. That's okay. You know, we'll know that it's 3165 is a charge weight higher than what I stopped at. So, and generally I found that at the very top things don't shoot very well anyway. So I don't think we're missing out on a whole lot. Or if they do shoot well, they're fussy. They won't do it all the time. It'll be erratic. And kind of be an any given Sunday load where shoot great today, you take it out tomorrow, it doesn't, or you take it out when it's 20 degrees warmer or cooler and it doesn't shoot anymore. They're just fussy. So I have a tendency not to pick stuff at the very top unless it proves to me that it can shoot across, you know, different sets of conditions. Going off by itself, where most of the shots are landing, but it's the highest one. 3032, another weird velocity anomaly. I don't think this is the powder, I think it's the brass. But it is what it is. Alright, N555. Can't remember where our last one was. I think it was in that cluster of 3 that's straight above the dot. Ooh, right in there with the last one. 3062. Previous was 3044. Thing's showing some signs of life now. Despite the bigger aggregate. If it wanted to shoot there at that kind of 3040 to 3060, nothing wrong with that, especially if it's driving tacks like that, shoots sub half inch or something. I'd take it for sure. I think that one jumped up top. 3123, big jump in velocity, 61 feet a second. Well, we might hit max after all. Brass looks fine, no marks on it. Might have been a brass anomaly. Jump 61 feet a second like that. Which usually, in my experience, when they start jumping all over during this test, that tells you you're reaching the top. Whether the brass tells you or not, it'll jump all over, and then if you were to bring back 3 to 5 shots of that stuff, the ES is usually high and it just gets crabby. Alright, now we're back down N160. We owe 2 there, and I think I'm going to have a hard time telling you where they go because there's so many piled together, overlapping. Went right in the center, straight above the dot. 3083. Brass looks great. I think I'll have a little bit room to go pressure wise on N160 over what I brought today. I'm running out of room. It's the load ratio is really high, so it's a nice full case, no airspace in the case. Both of these powders, there's no airspace at the top, so it'll be a little compressed if I go higher, but that's not going to hurt anything. Ooh, that one jumped way off by itself. 3075. Alright, now we go 2 for N555. The last shot was second from the highest, and 3123. I think that one right up there with the last one. I think 3131. Brass looks okay. Not sure where that went. I think it's right up there too. 3157. And a faint ejector mark, and that is that. We are not going to shoot the last one. Eight feet per second under my stop velocity, and a super faint ejector mark that you can just see in the right light. Nothing you can feel, but you can just barely see it. That is where we're going to stop. Alright, we still got one left of N160. Barrel's still good. Send this down the road and call it a day. Right in the main cluster. 3117. Brass looks perfect, so I do have a little room to go up there. Maybe a charge weight or two max, I would say. Well, overall that went great. N160 did shoot better as a whole, which I kind of expected, but N555 did show some signs of life there. Alright, so I'm out at the range, had some time to analyze the data here and mark where all the shots were for N555 on the left and N160 on the right. You see the aggregates are, at first glance, the aggregate is much smaller for N160, probably about half the size, and a lot more concentrated, which in my experience, that powder is going to, whatever final load we land on is going to be more stable across time than anything we pull out of the N555 group, despite the fact that if we look at N555, we do have some sequential shots that hit in the same place. So nothing really settled down until we got to, well, I guess 4 and 5 aren't super far apart, but we see 7 and 8 there. Almost made one hole, which was at 3001 and 3050 feet per second. So I'm going to test between those two charge weights. And then 10 and 11, you see there aren't far apart. a little over a 1/4 inch maybe. So I'm going to test between there. That was 3067 and 3062. And then I'm also going to test between 13 and 14, which was on the spicy side. That was 3131 and 3157. So I'll test those sweet spots, just do 3-shot groups and see how they shoot. Now, even if they shoot smaller than anything this produces, which it may and it may not, because of the relative location of those and the fact that, you know, we don't need much of a velocity change and we get a big point of impact shift, these loads I don't think would be as stable across time, even if they shoot smaller on any given Sunday than this. You know, this is a hunting rifle, so what we're looking for is consistency, not only in group size, but consistent point of impact location. Because if it's going to relocate every time you come out under different conditions, that's not any good, not for a hunting rifle. So I'm going to test those sweet spots just because I'm curious to see how they shoot, and we do need to get through the brass one time. But then I'm going to shoot more of an extensive ladder test with N160, but I'm going to start higher, so and go a little higher. So I'm probably going to start up around the middle of this ladder, maybe charge 6. So we see 6 and 7 there are not far from each other. They're, you know, stacked vertically. So I think I'm going to start with charge 6 and go up to a theoretical charge 16. See, we ended at 14 right here. And there wasn't really anywhere that they piled up for consecutive shots, but they're never really that far away from each other either. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens with that, but I'll be doing 3-shot groups, starting at the 6th charge weight and going up to the theoretical 16th charge weight, or start with 7 and go up to 16 or 6 to 15, something like that. Try to get up closer to what that original max was of 3165 feet per second. Just see if we can locate that and see on the higher end of the charge weights between 3,000 feet per second and 3160. We find somewhere in there that it wants to shoot. But I think that's what's next. So next time you guys see me out at the range, I'll be doing that testing, shooting those sweet spots, and then also doing that little more extensive ladder test with N160, and we'll see if we can pick a winner out of there to stretch out at long range and get a baseline of performance for the 130 grain ballistic tip before we start playing with the big boys. So I think that's all I got for today. Thank you guys for watching. I'm really excited for this project. You know, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun and open a lot of people's eyes to what, you know, these fast twist barrels and higher BC bullets can really give you for long range performance. So I think that's it. Like, subscribe, share with your buddies, all that good stuff. We'll see you on the next one.